Now, we've had a failed breakout on the S&P 500. I'll be talking about that shortly. We had the same thing on the NASDAQ 100. There's likely more work to be done on the S&P 500 before going higher. Yes, I said it. I still believe the S&P is going higher. Try to be shorter to take the time to explain to you the 4 different possibilities that I think are in play right now. Predicted that we get this pullback, and it now lay out the different possibilities. One is that a bigger pullback, we don't. And I'll show you the 4 different possibilities I'm looking at. I'll tell you what I think. Let you make up your own mind. What do you think? I'll show you the 4 possibilities that I think that are in play with my Elliott wave count. I still think we're in minor wave 5, but again, I'll show you what happens. Maybe we're still in minor wave 4. Watch the video all the way through. Bearish things are happening on the chart with the MACD rollover, but the divergences I told you about on Wednesday played out very nicely. But I'm going to be showing you 4 different charts of the various counts, so I'll try to make it as simple as possible, making the complex understandable. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. Most channels make their money with sponsors. I choose not to do that. I don't want to sell you a bunch of stuff. I just ask that you take a moment and partner with me, but I need to hear from you in order to make that work. Please take the time to do that. Let me know you want this information, you like this information, supporting the channel today. Thank you for your consideration for that. Again, nothing has changed. I still believe we're going. I'm still bullish, believing that we're going to go up. All-time highs on the S&P. I believe we finished intermediate wave 4 here. We have the 5 minor waves, and I believe that we're in minor wave 5 after that January low, bouncing off the trend line. I told you on January 9th and 10th, I thought we'd bottom out the following week. We did the very next day on Monday, the 13th, bouncing off this trend line. Maybe we hit it again in our 20-week moving average. And if we do, I'll show you some scenarios could play out if we bounce off that trend line yet again. I've got 4 different scenarios to share with you of different possibilities that can happen going forward. I predicted this pullback on Wednesday with our intraday chart. You'll see them in a moment, but it could be a bigger pullback, and I'll show you the 4 different possibilities I'm looking at and considering on the S&P 500. Now, the market took a beating. We have a delayed reaction today, by the way, of the news that we got the previous day the previous 2 days, I should say. On Wednesday, concerns about more tariffs, with the White House floating now 25% tariffs on autos, pharma, and semis. Additionally, that same day, we got the FOMC minutes. Again, the market shrugged both of those issues off. I talked about that on Wednesday. We saw it. The signals warned. The divergence is formed. We were going to get the pullback, and that did, in fact, happen now. We got consumer sentiment, which, again, final reading came in worse than expected, and concerns about inflation. With the survey, the Dow was down 1.69%, down almost 749 points. The S&P was down 1.71%, down over 100 points to 104 points and some change lower, right back at that 6,000 area. The NASDAQ down 2.20%. The Russell down nearly 3%. The VIX soared. The VIX soared by 16.28%. It's up. On Wednesday and Thursday, I showed you the intraday charts that were warning we were going to get a pullback, possible reversal. I warned you about these divergences in Wednesday and Thursday's video. Wednesday, after we had peaked here, Thursday we sold off. We went right back down to the 200 here on the 50-minute chart, and I told you that we stalled at the 50-period moving average. If we get rejection there at the cloud and we drop back below the 200, you're going to continue the sell-off. It amazes me how I warn about something. People get shocked when it happens. I guess that's human emotion for you. But again, I told you we were going to get a pullback. Also talked about it leading to something bigger. We saw NASDAQ begin to sell off with NVIDIA. We talked about that earlier in the week. But you had the divergence right here on the 15-minute chart. Talked about that and talked about, whoops, sorry about that. To put my phone on silence. I warned you about these divergences on the 50-minute chart, the 30-minute chart, the 60-minute chart. It's the 15, it's the 30. I showed you this on Wednesday. Again, the divergences. We stalled at the 50 as well. And again, I get the sell-off. So the S&P 15, S&P 30, 60-minute had it. We had the 5-minute chart. It dropped below the 200 period moving average. We gapped down there on Thursday at the 50 followed, talked about this, and then we went back up and we stalled right at that 200 period moving average, and we got rejection there, a little topping tail, and then we had the sell-off on Friday. 50 couldn't get back above the 200. Talked about all of this on these intraday charts Wednesday and Thursday. Now here it is on the S&P 500. Again, we have these divergences, so this could end up giving us a reversal in a larger pullback. I'll talk about that possibility in just a moment. Again, that's why it's important to watch the video all the way through. In the daily time frame, we're now seeing divergences begin to play out with this reversal. Again, we had the same thing here. We had the December peak. Well, we tried to get above that with the January rally here, and it failed. Okay, we got a confirmation above it, but no follow through. We saw the deep seek sell-off, and we came back up to fill the deep seek gap, and we tried to do it again, and it failed. We got above the December high, and it completely failed, and we got a reversal bar. Concerns about tariffs with Canada and Mexico going into play to begin, I should say, on February 1st. So we gap lower. After the weekend, the tariffs begin, and over that weekend that Canada and Mexico would be making concessions very quickly, and that happened immediately. We got those tariffs paused. We got the rally back up to fill the tariff gap lower. Another lower high, another attempt to test the December peak, another failed attempt there. Then we pull back, we tested the 50 period moving average and this trend line right here, and we bounced. We rallied up, got back above the moving averages, rallied up here. This time, we got a break above the December high. This time, it got confirmed. The previous peak that exceeded that did not really get it. And I talked about this. You closed on Tuesday with this potential hanging man bar. I talked about that on Tuesday, and I talked about the one on NASDAQ, but it was a doji. It was a doji, again, that failed to get confirmation. That breakout, but I talked about those bars being possible reversal bars, and that doji is a reversal bar. It's either going to give us this pullback or a larger reversal for NASDAQ, but I talked about those candlesticks on Tuesday. The S&P, it got that hanging man, it went a little bit higher, and I told you there was no confirmation to it, and then we formed another one at the 10 period. So now we do have confirmation to both of them with this push below the 10 period and below the 20 period moving average, breaking the trend line right here. So the door is open. Now we're testing the 50 period. NASDAQ's just above it. So again, with these clouds, the trending clouds and the 100 periods, the door's opened. If we try to take out this low, we'll be watching. That would open the door for a bigger pullback. I'll talk about both of those in just a second. Shorter term, more mild pullback, or the bigger one. But we've got the divergence. We have a failed breakout. We got above that January high. We got above the January high here by 1 point. 1 point. And I told you that really wasn't a decisive break above it. And then you got the follow through. Or is this just really the breakout bar, because you were only one, there wasn't any conviction, just being 1 point above this peak right here at 61.28. We closed at 61.29, and then we pushed on higher. So again, regardless, you got a failed breakout on your hands here, at least so far. And 10, 20 still above the 50, and we're seeing the MACD roll over. This could open the door for a bigger pullback. The LA wave of speculation, okay? Again, if you're looking for Nostradamus to tell you the future, day the market's going to peak the hour, the second. That's pretty unrealistic expectations. This isn't it. This is to validate or invalidate trends. That's what it's for. I don't trade Elliott wave, but I use it to try to determine where price might go, to validate and invalidate counts. So we got a couple of possibilities here. And again, I still think we're going higher. Did you hear what I just said? Great Scott, did you hear what I just said? I still think we're going higher. Yes, I do. But I have a failed breakout on the S&P 500, meaning that we're either going to build more momentum. Sorry, I had a hard time getting that one out. We're going to build more momentum with the pullback or maybe a bigger pullback. There's a couple of possibilities. Just look at some of these different possibilities and run it up the flagpole and see which way it blows. Because we do have a failed breakout on the S&P 500. So here's possibility number one. Minor wave 4 never finished over here. And that would be that we have a larger minor wave 4, larger than minor wave 2. That's possible. That the first push down was wave A, and then now we get this push back up for wave B, and then now that wave B has moved higher above the peak of wave 3 over here, have the possibility of an expanded flat, which would mean that we come back and take out this low right here, would mean we take out the trend line from the 2023 low. I don't know that I buy into that. Possibility. I want to share it with you. And it could be, rather than a rising wedge, we now in the daily time frame begin to expand into a channel here in daily time frame. We have a larger channel going all the way back, way back from the 2022 low, much larger than this one, just from the December or from the August low, pardon me. But that's one possibility, and that we would have just a larger ABC in an expanded flat, and then we go on, and we haven't started minor wave 5 yet. That minor wave 4 is still under construction. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? Well, this is possible. I'm not leaning towards this, but it is a possibility. I always like to tell you what I think, but then I show you other possibilities. With the MACD rolling over and a divergence here with this current move right here, this is certainly possible and very well could play out. But it could be, again, minor wave 4 is not done. We could be coming back to fill the CPI gap here, 58.43, and to take out the January low for an expanded flat. And that's what an expanded flat looks like, where you move to a higher peak above this level, and then you go back and you take out the low from this level, from the low of the low point of A. So this is the expanded flat scenario that suggests that minor wave 4 never finished. We'll take out the January low. Scenario 2. Say, well, that's a bunch of poppycock. Okay, here's scenario 2. Scenario 2 is minor wave 4 completed over here. We have these intermediate waves done, intermediate wave 4. We have the 5-leg push higher, 1, 2, 3, 4. Minor wave 4 finished. And we've begun minor wave 5, but the first subwave is done, and the second subwave is not yet done. And I told you, again, with the back test right here, I was looking for a higher low or a lower low, and I told you if we can get a breakout and resume the advance, then you've got your higher low. I told you over here I didn't know. I told you I was sure this was a bottom. I was sure this was a peak, and I was sure right here that we were going to go lower and pull back, but I told you right here we're even going to go lower. Sure about that. But right here I told you I wasn't so sure. I try to tell you exactly what I think. I was looking for a pullback for a higher low or lower low. Maybe it's not done yet. Maybe we do get the lower low I talked about, that possibility. Which is a question mark in my mind. I wasn't sure. Maybe we have a larger ABC formation still under construction with the deep seek sell-off, the rebound, the tariff low being A, and then the rebound back up being B, and then now we're getting the C that's going to unfold in these 5 waves on the intraday charts, and that could come down here just beyond this low or maybe closer to the CPI gap fill, but not take out the January low. Possible. So this scenario is that we also have an expanded flat under construction. This scenario is that we have the A coming down here and then the B coming up just above the January high. And we move to a new high here in February. And then now we come back and we take out the low here from wave A. That's an expanded flat. So you have the larger one there. You have the smaller one here in the subwave. I think this is more possible and more likely. Maybe we breach the trend line here if that is the case from the 2023 low. to come back and get an expanded flat to take out wave A. So something worth paying attention to. Does the trend line expand? Does it change? We'll be watching. But this is our scenario where we have an expanded flat. I say expanded flat, this is what I mean. You have the starting point here, which is our wave 1 right there. At the starting point, you come back, you take it out, and then you come back and you take out the low of wave A. And wave A, wave B, wave C. That's an expanded flat. We can have that right here. Our second subwave. Go on to get subwave 3, 4, and 5, and so forth, and go up on into the upper channel line, or the upper trend line here of the possible rising wedge. Maybe that trend line changes, but from the July peak over here. So just something worth paying attention to. Do we have an expanded flat for subwave 2? Get that mixed up with the previous scenario where we have an expanded flat for minor wave 4. So again, this scenario, since minor wave 4 is done, we're on minor wave 5, and we're in our second subwave of minor wave 5. Those two scenarios. Now, on the second scenario, if I draw it out for you, you can see, again, minor wave 4 done, subwave 1 completed, subwave 2 possibly still under construction, and then subwave 3, 4, and 5 to complete the blow off top. That would be what it would be. It would look something similar to that if we have this scenario where we have not yet completed our second subwave of minor wave 5. And minor wave 5 is up here, minor wave 4 here, and you'd have these 5 waves higher. Still an expanded flat with wave 2. So that is our second scenario. So scenario 1, minor wave 4, not done yet, still under construction. We take out the January low. Scenario 2, minor wave 4 is done, but the second subwave of minor wave 5 is not yet done. And we're still carving out these 5 subwaves to make up minor wave 5. But we're going to go take out the low from the back test of the bull flag. That's scenario 2. Scenario 3 is we're not still working on wave 4. We're not working on subwave 2. Those are done. But we're in minor wave we're in wave 3 of minor wave 5, and we're getting these smaller micro waves. Now, again, I want you to see which counts get invalidated. This scenario would have us having already completed minor wave 4. We're already in minor wave 5, and subwave 1 and 2 are done. And we're now in this subwave 3, and we're going to pull back to the trend line maybe and test the low here from the tariff gap, the tariff sell-off there, the tariff gap lower. And we're going to get a higher low, maybe at that trend line, hit that trend line again, and then it's going to be off to the races. And maybe it's the tax cuts that give us that. We'll see what happens. Might be the tax cuts, other catalysts, but again, that could be a catalyst. So this is scenario number 3. Scenario number 3, so we're already in subwave 3, and we're just getting the sell-off for our smaller microwave here in our subwave 3. So that's the scenario. I think that's very possible. You're still getting this 5-leg push higher. You're still going to have this rising wedge in play, and you're going to see a higher low in all likelihood above subwave 2. So that is the scenario that subwave 3 is now under construction, and you're getting these smaller waves before you go higher. Getting a lot of chop and slop in here going sideways as we've had our failed breakout, at least so far. And again, it may be that we're building momentum to go up and clear that trend line and clear the highs from January, which we failed to do here in February. We had a failed breakout. We cleared it, but it failed. Clear the January high, clear the December high over here. So just to review, this scenario has minor wave 4 done. This scenario has subwave 2 done, and we're in subwave 3 of minor wave 5. And we're just pulling back. That second scenario said minor wave 4 completed. You got your wave 1, your first subwave of minor wave 5, but you're still under construction here with subwave 2 of minor wave 5. First scenario said, hey, minor wave 4 isn't done yet. We're going back down to get an expanded flat to take out the January low. Those, I think, are the 3 most likely possibilities. Now, let's take a look at this scenario, and I think this one's very, very possible. This scenario where we haven't completed our second subwave of minor wave 5. Look at that on the 60-minute chart. So wave 1 is done for subwave, and we're still working on an ABC move for an expanded flat for subwave 2 that maybe tries to come back and fill the CPI gap. That would break the trend line. That's a possibility. We just take out this low and breach the trend line, but then get a bottoming tail or something like that. But this scenario, we take out the low right here, and you have an ABC move. Let's take a look at that on the 60-minute chart real fast. And here it is, up close and personal. Again, minor wave 4 done. You've got your first subwave done here. Minor wave 5, first subwave done here. And again, you've got an A marked in red there, a B, okay, this push up to a new high, a B, and now you're going to get a 5-leg push lower in a C. And you've got 1 and 2 done, and you're working on 3. You get 4 and 5, and you come back here maybe to the CPI gap fill, or again, you don't have to, but below, if it's an expanded flat, just below this low right here somewhere. So maybe it's something a little bit less aggressive, maybe something a little bit more. Now that assumes that, again, this is our second subwave of minor wave 5, but that's what it would look like on the 60-minute chart. And again, if we again end up forming a bullish divergence on the RSI and seeing that develop with 3, 4, and 5 or something, taking out this low or getting something uglier down to fill the CPI gap at 58.43. I wanted to show you that on the 60-minute chart. And again, warned you on Wednesday that the divergences had formed on the 15-minute, the 30-minute, and the 60-minute chart here, and those divergences are now playing out. Now, I originally told you that, again, this scenario, I don't know this one plays out, but if we hold above this level, you got a shot at it, but we're coming very, very close to taking out that low right there. So I don't know that this scenario would still be in play. This is where we have these microwaves going on. You got the wave 2 done here for our second subwave of minor wave 5, and then you've got this 1 and 2 going on here, and then now you're working on smaller microwaves. That would mean that we would still rally here. And again, you start taking out this low, then this gets invalidated. This is really the fourth scenario that I was talking about. A fourth scenario, which was original thought. I talked about the divergences there on Wednesday and Thursday. The fourth possibility, we take out this low, this count becomes invalidated. I'll show you this count with those other 3 counts. This is the one that I've been showing you on Wednesday and Thursday. I showed you the scenario number 3 right here, and that is that we have a 1 and a 2 going on. Now this first microwave of 3 could be completed here, and it could be A, B, and now C, and then go on our way. That's another possibility. Let me show you that on the 60-minute chart, but I've just put it here. It could still be here. I have both scenarios on my 60-minute chart. Let me show you. And here it is. This scenario assumes, again, we're going to stay above the low from the tariff sell-off low with Canada and Mexico, that tariff sell-off low that we had. This assumes we're going to stay above that. Remember, I talked about that being the back test right here, and we had a higher low right here, and we're coming back to test that. It looks like we might try to take that out. But I talked about this low being tested for a higher low or a lower low. Remember that? Well, let me just move this and draw this over here for you. If this is the completing of our second subwave, we've got a wave 1 here, and we've got an A, a B, and now a C before going higher to complete the smaller microwaves going on, okay? You got, say, subwave 1, subwave 2, and now you've got these microwaves going on in your subwave 3. That's possible. And again, it could be that we have A, B, and this 5-leg push lower for C. Certainly possible. Means that it ends just a little bit lower, and maybe a trend line going back from the 2023 low that we've talked about. Broke our trend line from these recent lows, but you still have one that we bounced off of back here in January, and maybe we come back and test that level again that we've looked at on the daily chart. If 5-leg push, if this is a 3-leg push lower, then again, possibly you have the 1 up here, and then maybe the 2, but still higher, again higher than this low. So just some different possibilities. Certain counts are going to be invalidated. I have a better idea of what's going on. If I go back on the daily chart, I can adjust that to where it shows a 1 and an ABC right here, which I think is very possible. And that could give us a bounce off of this trend line right here, which goes back to the 2023 low. And that makes a lot of sense. So again, I think this count has a lot of possibilities. Something uglier, maybe we go back and test that January low with our second subwave of minor wave 5, or maybe we take out the January low if minor wave 4 isn't done yet. So I think that the possibilities, I think this is probably less likely, but still possible. I'm leaning towards this, that we're still in our subwave 2 or have already started our subwave 3, and we've got these smaller microwaves going on here or here. My original scenario, the fourth scenario here, which was my original scenario, if that plays out, you've got to rally right here now off of the 200. But we've come so close to this low right here that again, it's likely that that low is going to be taken out. We'll see what happens. Rally immediately. You want to be watching. Do we back test the trend line and then go lower, or we try to take out this low? So those, I think, are the four possibilities. Original thought here is less likely. I think it's more likely that the first microwave here is done of wave 3, and let me change it again, and we're working on that second one, but we're probably not going to take out this low. So that's what I think is likely going to be the case. I'm going to show you all those scenarios. We're still in minor wave 4, which would mean that we go back and take out the January low. If we have an expanded flat, my guess is that's probably not going to be the case, but I could be wrong, and that's why I show you different scenarios. So yes, I still think we're going to new all-time highs. I do think that we're likely already in minor wave 5, and we've got, like I said earlier in the week, we've got all this choppiness, man. The short-term price fluctuations, but the main movement is still higher. A lot of choppiness, man.